Hello, this is Matt Pullin, and this is my game against Bill Brock from the Evanston Chess Club tournament today. This is the last round game. And right before starting this game, Bill Brock asked me, "So, am I going to be on YouTube?" I thought that was pretty funny because if you've seen my videos, you know that I have a previous game against Bill Brock, on my YouTube vlog. Only he had the white pieces in that game, and I have the white pieces in this game. So I played Queen Pawn, and I played Knight C3, the Veresov attack, which I've been learning. I got a book from Amazon.com written by Nigel Davies on this opening. Black controls the E4 square, so white will put pressure on this knight in order to try to play E4, and then black reinforces the knight. So I prefer this slow line with E3. Most of the time you see F3, and then black counters in the center with C5. But I like E3 here, which Davies recommends, and Brock played the solid C6. So I played F4, which is a modified stone wall with this bishop outside of the pawn chain. But this game highlights one of the drawbacks of the bishop being outside the pawn chain. It can be subject to a pawn attack. So G6, bishop D3, these moves are all typical, and now black attacks this pawn on B2, which can be defended easily thanks to the knight being on C3. I just played rook B1. He castled, and instead of castling myself here, which I think would be the normal thing to do, I decided that I would try this new idea, and I played pawn to B4, which I haven't seen this move before, but it seemed reasonable because it's preventing black from doing any sort of expanding on the queen side. If black tries to play A5, for instance, I can just hit the queen, and then advance my pawn to B5, and I'm in good shape. Also, there's thoughts of this minority attack coming into B5, trying to create a weakness in this pawn chain. So Brock played A6 to anticipate this minority attack. And it looks rather funny to have all these pawns on dark squares. The black piece that you would want to worry about most often if you have all your pawns on dark squares is the light square bishop. But it's going to be very hard for this light square bishop to get in the game because it's trapped behind this knight, and the knight has no good squares. So I castled here, which I think is an inaccuracy. In this position I should protect my weak point on E3, possibly by playing queen to E2. This prepares kingside castling. And also, maybe I can play pawn to E4 in the future. So, instead of queen to E2, I played castles, and he showed me a resource, which was very effective for black. He played knight to G4, attacking this pawn on E3. And the point is, I cannot take, because then this rook comes on the open file, and I have problems getting forked on E3. I can gain a tempo with this bishop by moving it to C5, but it doesn't matter, because I still have a problem with E3 falling. And black will have a pleasant position. So, the E7 pawn is poison. I played queen E1 to guard this pawn, and Brock played F6. Well, no choice here. I have to play bishop to H4, and now Brock played E5. So, all of a sudden, within the last 2 to 3 moves, black now owns control over all the dark squares in the center. So, something has gone terribly wrong in white's opening. I decided to gain the tempo by moving the queen to see where he would go. I thought he might play to A7 to maintain this indirect pin on the white king. But no, he played to C7. So right now he has 5 pieces on E5. Well, I have a pretty miserable position, and if I play this normally, like I did play H3 and his knight went back to H6, but if I play this position normally, like say I want to avoid this fork, so maybe I play bishop to E2, and then he can just advance, and this is just all sorts of unpleasantness. So I also looked at taking on e5. I didn't see anything I liked there either. So I decided to go for this sacrifice. Bishop takes f6, sacrificing the worst piece in my position, because it was on the same color as all these pawns. It's, the stonewall bad bishop. So he captured, and I took back with the knight. Well, what do I have for the sacrifice piece? I have 2 pawns. I'm controlling a lot of space in the center. All of my minor pieces are relatively active, and I can advance my pawns and create a lot of kingside space. Also, I have no serious weaknesses on the chessboard. So I think maybe I have sufficient compensation here. I don't know, but I didn't want to have to play that sacrifice. I just thought that my position would be too untenable without the sacrifice. So he played bishop f5. He says I want to trade my bad bishop for this good bishop. I say okay. And then I took with pawn, controlling this square, because I don't want any knights to jump into the holes in my position. I don't want any knights settling on my half of the board. I have to control as much space as I can. So I'm threatening g5. He brings the knight back, and I pull my knight in. So here I thought my position was okay. I mean, I have no weaknesses. I'm threatening this fork, by the way, so he guarded it. I mean, I have no weaknesses. I'm controlling a lot of ground with my pawns. But I think I just chose the wrong plan. Maybe this is a position that cannot be played for a win for white. I have to just stand pat and see if black is going to try and crack it open. But so I tried to do something on the queen side, which might have been my losing mistake. So he captured, and I took back, and knight d7. This is another critical point in the game. A logical move would be to play d4 to reinforce the knight and also reinforce this point on e5, but then this knight slips into b6 and heads for c4, and this knight on c4 is going to be very powerful and hard to remove. Also, I could play a5 to stop that knight from coming to b6, but then he has this sacrifice. He sacrifices the knight for 2 pawns, returning some material. And then I think he takes with rook here. So now it's him who has the better minor piece, and I have some weak center pawns that I need to look after. So I wasn't looking forward to this either. So I decided to capture the knight on d7. I decided it was the only option not to get broken into. So some maneuvering was played. I gotta try to get to the end of this game. Now, what is he threatening here? Can you see it? Yes, he's threatening bishop h4 check. Well, my queen was going to move anyway. So, see some more moves. And now he breaks through on the queen side. See, here I'm in trouble because I have to open lines for him. Otherwise, he's just going to get this bishop post on b4. So I gotta take. He throws in this check, and then plays the queen there. I have to prevent any sort of penetration with this queen, because if he gets a queen back here behind all of my pawns, man, I'm going to be dead meat because my king has nowhere to hide. So we shifted some more pieces around. I threatened to play a5, so he blockades it with his bishop. Queen c2. Now at this point, I have like under a minute on my clock because this is such a complicated struggle. So his queen is out of play, his bishop is out of play, this rook is on unnatural square. I'm thinking, okay, it's f5 now or never. There's never going to be a better time for me to play f5. So I played it, and takes. He played rook takes, which surprised me. So I got to take it, and then he pinned my queen to my king, so he's going to get the queen for 2 rooks. And my rooks aren't particularly well placed behind this a-pawn. So I checked him, and I played my king up, so if he takes my queen, I can advance my king down the board. He played queen e8, and now I have to watch out for his, diagonal check and winning the rook on a3. So I bring my other rook back and check. I blocked. He checked. He took, and then I blocked his check, giving check of my own. So I got some breathing room there. He moved his king, and I doubled rooks. He brought the bishop in, for the pin on this rook, so I need to unpin now. I have an okay pawn ending if he just trades the queen and bishop for the two rooks. And he does have this check, but if he checks me, I can just block it with f3 and I'm fine. Because whenever he stops checking me, I can just start throwing checks on the back rank. But unfortunately for me in this position, he has this resource h5 check. I mean, if it weren't for that pawn, I would have drawn this game. But h5 check, and I have to stay on this rook, otherwise I'll just lose material. And I mean, if I play here, then he just has this check because now the rook is pinned by the bishop. So there's really nothing to do. I have to stay on this rook. I mean, king there, he takes this pawn for check also, and then takes the rook. So yeah, I resigned shortly after this. That was my game against Bill Brock from the tournament today. Hope you learned something.